Hi, this is Dan Geiger, the All-American Alarm Clock host on Radio Oz with more Radio Oz fun.
Once upon a time, there was a girl nicknamed Red, 3 little pigs, and a brave boy named Peter. One day, they would all come together and face a truly big, bad wolf. Our story begins with a sweet little girl who was loved by everyone who knew her, but most of all by her grandmother, who loved to spend all of her time with her granddaughter. Once for her birthday, she gave the girl a red velvet cloak with a hood. It was so beautiful that the girl would never wear anything else, so she was always called Little Red Riding Hood. One day her grandmother became ill. Red Riding Hood's mother sent her off down the path to her grandmother's house on the other side of the forest with a large basket of food and some medicine for her grandmother. Just as Red Riding Hood entered the woods, she met a wolf. The wolf spoke to her. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said he. Red Riding Hood smiled.
"Good day, Mr. Wolf."
The wolf looked at Red and the large basket of food and asked, "Where are you going so early in the morning, Little Red Riding Hood?"
"To my grandmother's house,"
said Red.
"I'm bringing her this large basket of food so she'll have something good to eat and to help her get her strength back."
"Oh my, is she ill?" the wolf asked, faking his concern.
"Yes, the doctor says she has flu,"
sighed Little Red Riding Hood. "Doctors," shouted the wolf, "don't get me started. I went to the doctor last week. I said, 'Doctor, I'm scratching all over.' He said, 'You've got a bad case of ticks.' I said, 'I want a second opinion.' He said, 'Okay, you're ugly too.'" The wolf continued. I said, "Doctor, how do I get rid of my ticks?" He said, "Stop wearing a wristwatch." I said, "That'll make the ticks go away?" He said, "Yes, and all the talks too." The wolf howled with laughter at his own jokes. Little Red gave a giggle. As she giggled, the cloth covering the basket of goodies slipped off, revealing the basket's delicious contents. The wolf smacked his chops. He leaped toward Little Red Riding Hood's basket, but she pulled it away. The wolf landed with a thud in the brush. Little Red Riding Hood ran off down the path. The wolf watched her carefully as he picked himself up and dusted himself off. "Luckily, there's only one path through this forest." So the wolf casually began walking after Little Red Riding Hood, his mouth watering all the way. Meanwhile, already quite a ways down the path, Little Red met up with a little pig who was admiring his brand new house of straw. The pig had only just finished building his fine house. Little Red Riding Hood said,
"Oh, help me, little pig. There's a big bad wolf chasing me."
"Not to worry," the little pig grunted. "Come on into my house. We should be safe in this sturdy house of straw." Little Red Riding Hood looked at the rickety house. It looked as if it would fall over in a gentle breeze, but she could at least hide from the wolf inside. So she and the pig entered the house and quickly shut the door. Just then, along came the wolf. He knocked on the door. "Hello, it's me, Big Bad Wolf. Let me come in. Red, are you in there with?" And the wolf paused and read the name on the mailbox. "With a little pig," he finished. "We can't let you in unless you know the password," snorted the little pig. The Big Bad Wolf thought and rubbed his chin. The password. Could it be Chinny Chin Chin? He asked. "Nope, sorry, boss," the pig answered. The wolf took another guess. "Huff?" "Nope," was the pig's reply. "How about Puff?" grunted the wolf again. "No, that isn't it either, boss," the pig laughed. "Whatever you do, don't say babe, okay?" Thought the wolf. What a fool. So the wolf shouted out his next guess. Little pig, let me come in. The password is babe." "Oh, sorry, boss. That was last week's password." The pig and Little Red giggled from behind the door. "That does it," huffed the wolf. "I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house in." So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in. The wolf blew so hard that the little pig and Little Red Riding Hood were sent sailing up the path. They hurried to the house of the pig's brother, a fine house of sticks. "Hey, Rusty, it's me," grunted the first pig. "Open up, little brother. I'm being chased by a big, bad wolf." From inside, the sound of squealing.
What did he say?
Little Red Riding Hood asked the first little pig. "He says he wants to know the password." "Rusty, I forgot the password. Open up, or I'm going to be pork chops." The door swung open, and there stood Rusty, the second little pig. He grunted and squealed with a smile and gave a loud oink. The first pig chuckled. "That's right, I did forget. The password this week is pork chops." Little Red leaned over and whispered into the first little pig's ear.
Why does he grunt and squeal? Why doesn't he speak the way you do?
The first pig laughed. "Oh, that's because Rusty didn't take a foreign language at school. He understands it all right, though, I think. He just can't speak it." Rusty waved them in with a grunt. "Rusty says—"
Never mind,
interrupted Red.
I think I know what he just said. Come on in, right?
"You learn fast, Red," laughed the first little pig. The second little pig had just been preparing a large mud bath in his bathtub. "He loves to roll in the mud," said the first pig.
Interesting,
smiled Red, who seemed disgusted at the mess. Rusty grunted and squealed. "He says you're welcome to take the first mud bath if you like. There are towels on the dresser," offered the first little pig.
No thanks,
returned Red.
I just had a bath this morning.
Just then along came the wolf, hungrier than ever. He knocked on the door of the stick house. "Oh, Red Riding Hood," called the wolf, "and little pigs, let me come in." The first little pig shouted, "No, not by the hairs of our chinny chin chins." Rusty gave a squeal. "I don't know what that means, Rusty. It's just part of the story, okay?" shot the first little pig. Little Red Riding Hood also yelled at the locked front door.
"Go away, you old windbag."
"Very well," said the wolf. "Then I'll huff and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." The wolf started to huff and puff. Little Red Riding Hood and the two pigs quickly snuck out the back door before the wolf blew the house of sticks in. By the time the wolf realized the girl and two pigs weren't among the pile of sticks, the trio had scurried safely away up the path. They ran and ran until they arrived at a fork in the path.
"Which way?" panted Little Red. "What now?"
"Let's see," reasoned the first little pig. "The spoon and the knife, they're on the right. So we take it a fork on the left." Rusty oinked in agreement.
"I had to ask," sighed Red. "Okay, let's hurry."
"If we're lucky, this will either take you to your grandmother's cottage or our brother Hamilton's sturdy brick house," said the first pig.
"Hamilton?"
asked Red. "That's right. We call him Ham for short."
"That figures,"
laughed Little Red Riding Hood. So the two little pigs and Little Red Riding Hood took the fork on the left and started down the path. Eventually, the wolf, too, arrived at the fork in the path. Instead of following Red and the pigs, he mistakenly went to the right. The pigs and Little Red Riding Hood had now come into view of the big brick house. The house was as bright red as Little Red's hood. It was the home of Hamilton Pig. The first little pig gave two loud knocks on the huge front door. From inside came a timid voice. "Who's there?" it asked. Rusty grunted and squealed as Red and the first little pig shouted, "Pork chops!" "Pork chops who?" returned the small voice. No, shouted the first little pig. "That's the password. And not a knock-a-knock joke. It's us, your brothers." Hamilton Pig opened the large front door and looked at them. "So, who's the little girl?" he asked. "This is Little Red Riding Hood," answered the first little pig. "Let us in, Hamilton. We're being chased by the big bad wolf. Let us in, Ham." I don't see a wolf," Hamilton said.
"He's down the path. He'll probably be here any minute. Please let us in," urged Red.
Hamilton Pig said, "It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that yesterday there was a little boy out front of my yard yelling, 'Wolf, wolf, wolf.' And when I asked him, 'Where is the wolf?' and he says, 'He was here just a minute ago,'" Hamilton continued. "I told him, 'It's not a good idea to beat a boy who cries wolf all the time,'" said Hamilton. "Oh, well, that's a whole other story, isn't it? Come on in, you guys." The pigs and Little Red Riding Hood entered Hamilton's beautiful, sturdy brick house. It had a great big stone fireplace. Everything was either stone or brick. The group prepared themselves for the wolves' arrival. They locked all the doors and windows and started a fire in the fireplace. They waited and waited, but no sign of the big bad wolf. "Are you sure you're not related to that boy from yesterday?" Hamilton asked Red. "I mean, it's been almost an hour. Still no wolf. Unless maybe it's an invisible wolf. It could happen. happen.
It's a real wolf, all right, said Red.
That's right, the first pig agreed. He huffed and he puffed and he blew my house in. Rusty's house too, the first pig translated. Listen, I've seen both of your houses. Ham laughed. A housefly could have knocked them over just sneezing on your roofs. Maybe you'll listen to me now and build brick houses too. Rusty grunted and squealed and once again gave a loud oink. Red asked,
What did he say?
He says he thinks the wolf must have taken the wrong fork in the road. Little Red Riding Hood suddenly leaped to her feet.
Oh, my,
she shouted. Red, what is it? Asked the first little pig.
Well, if Rusty's right, and the wolf did take the wrong path at the fork, that means he's headed straight for my grandmother's cottage.
Not good, Ham said.
Oh, dear, I have to hurry there at once, cried Red. Grandma's been so sick lately, she wouldn't have a chance against that old wolf.
But I think if you're going to go to your grandmother's house, the first pig offered, we should go with you to help protect you. Rusty grunted in agreement. All right, Ham said. Count me in. Now, it may be dangerous out there. The wolf could jump out at us at any time. But if it happens, I want you to know I'll be right behind you every step of the way. So the three little pigs and Little Red Riding Hood cautiously left the big brick house and started down the path. They walked along in complete silence. They walked quietly past the fir trees and the small creek and the giant mud swamp. Rusty grunted at the sight of the cool mud.
Rusty, shh,
hushed Red. Little did they know the wolf was already at Grandmother's house. He had locked Grandma in the closet, donned her nightgown and nightcap, and hopped into her large feather bed. The wolf was ready to spring his trap. Meanwhile, just down the path, there, up ahead, Ham shouted. That must be the old gal's place.
You're right, Ham, it is. Come on,
Red said excitedly. The foursome stepped up to the door and knocked.
Grandmother, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood,
Red shouted. The wolf tried to disguise his voice to sound like the grandmother.
Come in, dear. Lift the latch, sweetheart. Grandmother, it's so good to see.
Red stopped. She stared at what she thought was her grandmother. She looked very strange, but then again she thought she had been sick.
It's so good to see you, she finished. Grandmother, these are my friends, the three little pigs.
Wolf again used his old woman's voice.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, Grandmother, smiled the first pig. Say, does your face hurt? It would have to. It's killing me. The three little pigs laughed. Look, Little Red, your grandmother, she looks like a movie star, snickered Hamilton.
Really? Which one?
Lassie, answered Ham. And again the three little pigs laughed and laughed. Check your basket, Little Red. In with all that medicine your mother packed. Is there a 90-day flea collar anywhere handy? The disguised wolf just smiled. Drool from his hunger dripped from his chops. Little Red Riding Hood studied the grandmotherly wolf a little bit closer.
My, oh my, Grandmother, what big ears you have, she stated. The better to hear you with, my dear,
the wolf answered softly.
And Grandmother, what big eyes you have,
Red said.
The better to see you with, my dear,
was the wolf's soft reply.
Grandmother, what long arms you have,
Red observed.
The better to hug you with, my dear,
he grinned.
And my, oh my, Grandmother, what big teeth you have.
The wolf jumped down from the bed and ripped off his disguise. The better to eat you with, my dear, he bellowed. The wolf leaped from the bed and began chasing Red and the pigs around the house. The pigs and Little Red ran into the closet, lifted the latch, and hurried into the darkness. They were surprised to find Red's grandmother in the closet with them.
Little Red, is that you?
Grandmother asked.
Yes, and we're here to save you. It's getting a little crowded in here.
I'll agree with that. This is a popular closet, said Hamilton Pig. Now I know what a sardine feels like.
Oh, sweetheart, I'm so glad to see you, said Red's grandmother. If I could see you in this dark closet, that is.
The wolf tried to open the door, but Red had managed to lock it from inside. Open the door to this closet, or I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your door down, yelled the wolf. And you know I can do it. He huffed and he puffed and he blew. Nothing happened. He took another deep breath and tried it again. Alas, the wolf was so weak from hunger and the chase that he was unable to blow the closet door down. This just doesn't seem to be my day. Open the door! I'm counting to 10. 1, 2, 3. The wolf continued counting at the top of his lungs. Meanwhile, a young boy named Peter and his grandfather were passing by. They heard the commotion.
What was that?
Asked Peter.
That doesn't sound like the lady that lives there. We'd better see what's going on,
Peter's gramps said. So the pair opened the front door. When they saw the wolf, Peter quickly grabbed his grandfather's axe.
See, Grandpa, I wasn't lying yesterday when I told you there was a big bad wolf running around.
I'm very sorry I doubted you, my boy, said the grandfather. Peter's grandfather shouted,
Where is the little old lady that lives here all alone then?
Little Red Riding Hood managed to hear all of this, and she hollered out from the closet,
Help! I'm Little Red Riding Hood. We're trapped in the closet by the big bad wolf.
Don't you worry, Little Red Riding Hood, Peter's grandfather shouted. I know what I'm doing. I'm not afraid of an old mangy wolf.
Hey,
that hurt, said the wolf.
Take that back.
Oh, sorry, offered Peter's grandfather.
I mean mangy only in the nicest sense of the word.
Word? Asked the wolf.
Word, yeah,
the grandfather said. Peter raised his grandpa's axe, and the wolf ran from the house and deep into the woods. And to this day, the wolf has never been heard from again. Peter's grandfather opened the closet door, and everyone cheered.
Yay!
But wait. That's not all. Peter's grandfather finally professed his true love for Red's grandmother. They would marry and live happily ever after. Peter and the wolf story became legendary in the village. Peter became a hero, known as the boy who scared the wolf away. And as for Little Red, she said to herself she would never wander off into the woods alone again. And the pigs, well, the first 2 pigs would both build sturdy brick houses right next to Hamilton's.
Thank you, my little pig friends,
Red had said that day.
How can I ever repay you for your kindness and your bravery? I know. Come over to my house this evening. My mother and I would love to have you all for dinner.
Rusty grunted. Do you think you could rephrase that? Hamilton asked.
Yeah, ever since Rusty saw the movie Babe.
He's a little sensitive, don't you know, laughed the first pig. And they all laughed and sang and danced around grandmother's cottage. And that's the end of Pigs in the Hood. What do you think of that? We kind of combined a bunch of stories all in one there, didn't we? I wrote that.